Well, good evening and welcome to Positively Positive. I am your host, Susan Mintz, and this is the only one of its kind, exclusive, never been done before show where Positively Positive is all about anyone, everyone, all things. If it's HIV/AIDS related and you have a story, or an organization or any affiliation and you want to tell your story, you will see a number on the screen. You'll be able to contact Richardo Jackson at Campbell Health Solutions, or you can contact me. My information is on my website, or it's give you that at the end, and I will send you the link, and you can be a guest on Positively Positive. And it's so exciting because I know that a show like this that's groundbreaking will get picked up nationally by someone, and someone also who's branded will say, brand name will say, this show is necessary and needed because stories about HIV and AIDS must be told, and we must keep HIV and AIDS out in this mainstream. Even if it isn't every day, we still have to put a face on it. And that way we help remove the stigma. We help get more people tested. We help to get more people on early medications and PrEP. It's just, this show was meant for education, information, and resources. And people are from all over the country, but they share one thing: HIV/AIDS some way, or community activism, or their job. That's it. Welcome to Positively Positive again. And I am your host. Good evening, good evening, good evening. To tell you why I'm so involved with HIV and AIDS is, for me, repetitive, because I've been doing it since 1994. And my personal book is called Committed to Love. I was married to an extremely handsome man, my love of my life, Dr. Jeffrey Mintz. We met when we were 11, and I won't tell you the whole story, but he was bisexual. And in 1981, when I heard about this disease, we made a choice that we would abstain from a sexual relationship, but nothing else changed. The love was there, the travel, the food, the fun, the entertaining, the kissing, the hugging, the touching. And then, unfortunately, many of my neighborhood in Houston were very ill, very artistic area. And then many of his lovers, who I did know, took ill, and we moved to Boca in 85, and he was still okay. But let's just say in 91, he started changing, and in 92, he got gravely ill. And on June 20th, 1992, I put him in the hospital, and I documented every day my journey with this man from the time we met until the time he passed on August 17th, 1994. He passed the HIV/AIDS ministry. I am totally negative. He passed that ministry, that purpose, onto me to be a spokesperson, to never, ever stop talking about HIV wherever it was. And the Lord gave me the strength to get through and the gift to write. And because of that, I've been able to go for 30 years. I help hospice. I wrote another book called And I Held Their Hands with a Hospice Heart. 24 stories of people who I met while I was at hospice as a volunteer. Marvelous stories, all about hope and faith, mine committed to love. Issues, 24 chapters in each. I write about life. So that is why HIV and AIDS, and then this opportunity for this show came along, and I just said, thank you, God, and thank you, Richardo, because I will not stop talking about it. And one day, if anybody knows Tyler Perry, I'm putting it out there in the cyberspace world. You could take Committed to Love and make it into the greatest Netflix 9-episode series ever been. Tyler Perry, this movie could be done by you exclusively, and it would get the recognition it needs. Thank you all for watching. I am now, yes, the makeup is heavy. I love it. And the sunglasses are crazy, and the jewelry. I'm going to introduce the most incredible guest. I didn't realize I know her until I saw her picture. Her name is Kim Enright. In just a moment, she'll be brought into the studio. And when I saw her, I realized I knew her, but sometimes you have to put a face and a name together. So the glasses are off, and I'm going to say, Kim Enright, come on into the studio.
Hello.
I've heard what's wonderful and how I enjoy this show so much is because, I've lived in Palm Beach County for 40 years and I've been involved with HIV or AIDS somewhere, it didn't matter, down in Broward, wherever an opportunity went. And I hear these names being thrown out all the time, but I don't connect with them until I see them at a care council meeting, or I see them at an event or a retreat or something. And so Rob Scott, my best friend, Rob Scott, he never comes down here. So all of a sudden there's a little knock, knock, knock on the door. And I hardly hear it because I blast my TV so loud. So anyway, I thought, is it the TV or is it the door? So I open up the door and there he's standing there. And I went, what happened? Are you all right? The typical Jewish lady kicked in there. Are you, for not hi, how are, no, are you all right? You sure? What happened? Because he never does it. I said it was in Delray, so we stopped in and he hadn't seen my new paint job and the way I'd done the house and the condo over. So he said, Kim Enright's on tonight. I said, yes, I keep hearing that. He said, oh, she's wonderful. She says, oh, she's what? I said, you never talk about even me with that enthusiasm. And then he said, she's with Legal Aid, because I don't have any bio on you. I just know with Legal Aid, and then ask her about the theater. He was very emphatic. He doesn't even repeat himself, all right? So he kept saying, oh, she's wonderful. And then she kept, and ask her about the theater. Ask her. So promise me you'll write a note, theater. So this show is let me say, it's not loose, it flows. It doesn't matter where we go or how it ends up or what we do. It's easy because we have real people talking about real life and real issues. Sometimes we get unplugged. Sometimes I have to go back to a note and go, it's it's National Pride Month. I have to look at my notes to make sure I get everything in. But with you now, Kim Enright, where were you born?
I was born in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
That's where
Floridian.
Yeah, that's where he has got his house, right? He's from there. Biden?
I do. He is yes, I do believe that I know there's a connection to Delaware and probably Rehoboth Beach.
Rehoboth Beach. That's where I think is either a sex home or whatever, Delaware. So how long have you lived in Palm Beach County?
Since 1972. I think I was 7 when we moved down. So I consider myself a Floridian, but not technically a Floridian.
But where did you move to, Palm Beach County?
Yeah, we moved to Juneau Isles, actually, up sort of towards the north end of Palm Beach County.
7 years old. And what is I also love to know education. I may not, when I write my stories up, everybody's turned around because again, I want the why you're involved with HIV and AIDS. And may I ask your age without offending you?
No, it doesn't offend me. I am 57. I'll be.
Could you speak up, please? I don't think our listeners heard you.
I'm 57, 58, turning 58 this year.
Well, I'm 77, so don't be shy, Toots.
No, I'm actually turning 59 this year. Oh, my God.
All right, so you're 59. How long were your degrees? Because I know you're with Legal Aid. And that's legal aid of palmbeachcounty.org. We'll give you that information at the bottom of the screen or your email address also. But your education, so you were educated then down in this area. Where did you go to school and what degree? Where was your first degree? Because I know you must have a few.
I went to high school down here. I went to Jupiter Christian up in Jupiter. and I went to several different colleges, Palm Beach State College, University of Missouri, Wesleyan College, but I graduated back down here at Florida Atlantic University, right there in Boca.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to law school at Nova Southeastern down in Broward. And that's where I got my law degree in 1992.
Wow, that's the same year Jeffrey was diagnosed. There's no, everything is a connection. So you got your passed your bar the first time around, obviously. Why though? Let me ask you now. We get where the story really is what I want. Why or how or when did you get involved with the HIV/AIDS and Palm Beach County and go into the law end of it? And be slowly, only because I do want to write notes because this is all going in a book.
Absolutely. I actually started working in the HIV/AIDS arena in the late 1980s. I was in college, and one of the board members of the theater, we'll bring the theater in, one of the board members of the theater was the executive director of the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County, Bob Burdish. And so I met him through the theater, and I was in college trying to decide whether I wanted to go into journalism or law. And, I asked if I could volunteer at Legal Aid and get some experience. And he said, sure, come on aboard. We very early on, back in the late 80s, had an HIV/AIDS program at Legal Aid where we assisted individuals. It was really, it was not at the beginning of the epidemic, but it was early on. And there was an attorney in the office that was working on different issues. We were working Social Security cases, different kinds of discrimination things. So I volunteered with her program, and that was my first kind of foray into the HIV/AIDS arena.
Yeah, originally, let's back me up a bit. When you went to law school, what did you specifically go to law school for? Or there was?
Well, when you go to law school, you you can sometimes have an idea about what you want to do, but
Right.
It really depends on what's available for you when you graduate. And so I originally thought I was going to go into criminal law as a prosecutor because I did my internship at the state attorney's office. But it fell onto my lap to go back to Legal Aid after I graduated, and I worked in their children's program. And then in 1992, we wrote a grant and got money to start a Ryan White project at Legal Aid. So I was one of the first two attorneys. There were two of us at Legal Aid that were the first attorneys in our Ryan White project. And that was in 1994. I started at Legal Aid in 92, and we started the Ryan White project in 1994.
All right. Now, one other thing, though. Do you have a bio on this that you'll be able to send me? Because it's amazing, your story. I mean, and I'm trying to write all this. The flip side is, if you have a bio, you can email me.
Absolutely.
And that way I can really put you in the, because this book won't get published for a year or so, but I want to make sure I have what I want for the story. Again, back me up. Had you had any, not exposure, but had you been with friends who passed? How did you get involved? Why was it HIV and AIDS?
It was really, I think, an outcropping of the community that I was involved with, which was very much the LGBTQ community. I grew up, my mother's best friend was a gay man. My high school best friend was a gay man.
Right.
I was always surrounded by that community. And in theater, I was also surrounded in that community. And we started to see people in our theater community get diagnosed. And it was such a part of my life because of the community that I was with and surrounded with, that it became a very important issue to me and personal to me. And that's why it just, from the very beginning, from even the late 80s, it was just, I just stumbled across an old box of my stuff from college, And I have actually saved a newspaper article. It has to be from 1987, 88, 89. And it was an article in the FAU newspaper about HIV and AIDS. I mean, so long ago, and I just carried that with me.
So with legal aid, then what specifically do you do? Who do you help? Who do you serve? Why is legal aid in Palm Beach County, where you are, so important? Because this is a resource show. One of the things is it's not just somebody telling a story. We want education, information, resources out to the people, whether they're in New York, or a lot of people really don't know even how to get tested, to get started, where to go, how to do anything. So when you have a guest from Arizona, you have someone from DC, the main thing I want to know is you promote testing, obviously, you make sure people are treated properly. But as far as you're concerned, you got it personally involved because you were around a lot of gay men or gay people in the theater.
Mm-hmm. That was the original. That's originally why it was such a personal issue for me. And just that I mean, I went to legal aid and I've stayed at legal aid because of my innate, the importance to me of helping people.
Right.
You know, I also traveled behind the Iron Curtain when there still was an Iron Curtain. And what I saw really affected me and made me want to come home and help people. And so this organization, which has grown enormously since I started there 30 some years ago, you know, that's the core and heart of everything we do for all kinds of people with HIV or AIDS, victims of domestic violence, people with immigration issues, the elderly, children.
That's wonderful. So you do it not just for let's say diagnosed or survivors, but you also do it for immigration.
Oh, yeah.
So you're kind of a generic all over the place.
Yes, our office.
So legal aid is for immigration.
We do immigration. We help victims of domestic violence. We represent children. We represent the elderly. We have. I'm trying to in my head go around. We do so many. We have so many projects. Oh my goodness. We have a wage theft for people who work for companies and then don't get paid. We help them recover their wages. We have 130 employees. And
how many lawyers? How many lawyers like yourself?
I think we're probably up to like 60, 70 lawyers.
Right. I would think it's pretty big, 60 to 70. And the other thing is, what do you find is the number one thing you see now that you deal with more than anything with HIV and AIDS? Would there be one issue that's the most common?
Among the HIV and AIDS community or just the general public?
No, your HIV pocket there.
Probably Social Security. That's a huge issue for us, and one that we, because it's changed since the beginning when I first started in the program. The needs of the individuals then are different than what they are today because of the medications and because of the testing and because of everything else like that. The needs have changed significantly since we first started the project, but we do a lot of, you know, we still get discrimination cases, do a lot of Social Security. We do some probate, things like that too.
But the Social Security, that was the thing I was going to ask you, because when in the 1981 through 1990, let's say, it was still all over the place. And people died in their 30s, 40s. I mean, nobody lived then, you know, and then in the 1990s, things changed. But it's not until the last really 15 years that the meds have gotten that great.
Right.
I think maybe 20. I'm not that, but I know that now they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Because I've been with them in the long-term survivor groups, had them on. So yeah, they're entitled. They're retired from a job. Is their boss paying them anything yet? How do they get some assistance? Do they get dropped with their insurance? All these issues that I've heard happen because they
Right.
make it seem on TV like you can get these meds. They're really easy to get. No problem. Though, everybody's happy and let's go on with life. There is financial investments. There's
Mm-hmm.
getting the resources, how to do it. There's trying to
Mm-hmm.
get help. So Legal Aid of Palm Beach County is anyone I could send there to you, and you'd be able to channel them to the right area that they need.
Absolutely.
Can I also, though, I know you gave us the website.
That's my email address. Yes.
But your email address is Ken Wright at Legal Aid. We got that. I mean, I wrote it down, so I'm okay. But that's what I was thinking is the aging process.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey died. He was 47 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he also could have lived knowing he was HIV positive. That was not my husband. He lived life to the fullest. And that's what I loved about it. I was on this amazing journey, as rough as it was. If you've ever watched the movie Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Oh, yeah, I'm quite familiar with that. Yep.
There you go. That was my marriage. Couldn't leave him, couldn't stay with him, but I'm all chilled. God brought us together, and I was with him till the moment he passed in our bed with hospice. So I'm very familiar now with being around people who are 65, 70, 75 and say they've been on meds for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad that Social Security is also very important.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there one area that you do all the lawyers there have different areas as a rule? Oh, so then what is yours?
Well, I don't actually practice in our Ryan White project anymore. I started it, but I am not one of the staff attorneys in our Ryan White project anymore.
You started it,
but
you're not in it right now.
Correct.
And where are you?
I have an administrative position, managing a department.
Name dropper. Oof. Ooh, get the fan out. Where's my fan? Oh, she just dropped a bullet, folks. She's an administrator now. Oh, I have to put the glasses back on, I think, for this right now. Oh, she's an administrator. I have to look as professional as I can. Okay. I got pages full of stuff here. All right. And you're also going to send me your bios, and that's wonderful. But when we hear the music, that's when, remember, I got to mention all these national awareness months. Yeah. Will you help me with that?
I'm going to try.
Yeah. Between you and I, we should get all this information in June. All right. So you are now an administrator.
I have an administrative position, yes. But I also I am the LGBTQ clearinghouse, basically, for the
liaison. Is
that I'm all of those cases, no matter what they are, come to me. And then I either handle them. I do a lot of work in the transgender community, doing name changes for folks. If it's not a case I can handle, I send it out into the private bar to handle, so for free.
Because that we didn't have a long time ago either. I mean, I go back to 81. Yeah, there were drag queens, drag shows. It was all, but it's not like it is. I mean, going back to the days of disco, I mean, there was no better era to dance and do drugs and have a ball. And boy, did we do them. Stoned out of our minds and dancing till dawn with Liza Minnelli or Barbra Streisand impersonators. I mean, it was the best. And you went into a bathroom. You didn't care. I always say this during a show. I didn't care if there was a penis. I didn't care if there were breasts. I didn't care. You didn't care then. You just wanted to go pee, get back on, fix your makeup up, and go back out and dance. And all of a sudden, the transgender thing has exploded, literally imploded. And I do feel for that because I don't know where anybody knows to put that. And I think of the suicides in the youth who are so messed up because just telling someone they're gay is hard. Telling someone they're HIV positive with the stigma is hard. But how does a young person or somebody in general go through this transgender issue? I'm fascinated by it because I've not been familiar with it.
It's tough. We're dealing with a lot of laws that are being passed in this state that are very anti-trans. We're dealing with a school system in Palm Beach County that isn't always easy to deal with when we're dealing with our children that are trans. So there are a lot of issues surrounding that, and I'm trying to help and take care of as many people as I can help as possible. You know, our office doesn't get funding for this, but it's important to my boss and it's important to me. So we do it.
Well, who pays you?
We just use unrestricted money that we have in the office. And, you know, it just has become part of what I do. And it just
Do you
comes.
have private community? So you have philanthropists or private community donations, or someone could write you a check for a couple $100,000.
That
So
would
you're accepting money. Legal Aid in Palm Beach County would like donations. You could please go to Legal Aid Palm Beach County. Kim would be more than happy to handle this issue. So if there is somebody out there who's got an extra $1 or $2 handy, they
we'll take it.
want to do something good with it, you can go right there and take care of it right now in June. Just don't waste. Don't think about it. Just go right now and write that $2 million check to Kim Enright Legal Aid. They're accepting anything from $1 to a couple million.
Exactly.
That's great.
We help everybody that we can. I mean, it's important.
You know, when I introduced the show, I mean, I have not had anybody from Legal Aid officially. You're the first. And what I love about this also is that the information, you don't know who's getting it. You don't know where it's going, and it's on, and being like someone like yourself, you pass it on. You have somebody else that does another specific area, and the show is growing because it's people like you who are telling others, or someone could be watching it on YouTube. Someone could be watching it anywhere, and they go, "Whoa, this show is really," and it works that way. We take serious subject matter. It is serious subject matter, but we try to give it as much of you are welcome, you are blessed, we want you, you have value. You know, we try to just affirmation, and all the guests have that. Besides the positively positive, there's an HIV connection. I mean, you always kind of got into it because of theater and because of your surroundings. You knew people in the gay community, so you were kind of just drawn into it. But in general, you could have gone anywhere with Legal Aid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and yet isn't that interesting how you've been used in that respect? But the difference over being involved for 40 years is myself, the patterns of the behaviors I've seen. And how do you feel about, I always love to ask this, how do you feel about the stigma that's still attached to it? And do you feel that when you get people come in?
I hear, and I guess it's hard. I guess it's hard for me to. No, that's not how I want to say it. You know, it's frustrating to me because I don't understand why there should still be a stigma. But I understand that there is. But I remember back, and this is one of the stories I tell was so impactful for me when I was doing a case back in the 90s, early mid 90s. And my client was HIV positive, and it was a family law matter. And he had applied for Social Security, and we had to disclose why it was complicated, but we had to disclose to the opposing party and the opposing party's counsel that my client was HIV positive. And when we did that in the middle of a deposition, the attorney stopped the deposition, like his face got white as a sheet, and he said, "We have to take a break." Yeah. And so he stopped me in the lunchroom in my office, and he looked at me so seriously, and he said, "Aren't you afraid you're going to get it?"
Oh,
I was like, "What?" I'm like, I don't sleep with my client. I don't. Why would you ask me like that? It's a bizarre question. But back in those days,
yeah,
it you know, and so there was. I can remember so much of the stigma, you know, back in those days, and what a struggle it was. And I never, because I understood how you could get it, and I understood all of it, and I worked with the pediatric AIDS clinic, and you know, I would bring my then infant daughter with me to places, and people who were HIV positive or had AIDS would hold her. And it was like, it never freaked me out, never scared me. It was never an issue for me. So I get so frustrated.
Yeah.
but there's been a whole like turnaround too. Like the
Yes,
youth today aren't, my generation was somewhat terrified, once we got into the 90s, a little terrified of casual sex and not taking precautions and all that. And then today's youth are like, oh yeah, okay, I can just take medication and it's not that big a deal. And that frustrates me because I
very
work
much so.
with the
Yeah.
young people in the theater, and it's
Yes. The pill is not the cure-all. There's no vaccine, darling, and there's no cure around the corner yet. And
right.
these are still heavy medications.
Right. And that's
And
why, like you said, it's
and
so
they're
important to
yeah,
keep
and they're
this,
expensive. That's why PrEP is wonderful. These meds are great, but that's not the cure.
right. And
And
we
you
still
start
need to talk about it. We still need to talk about it and keep it in the forefront. And I, for mental health reasons of my own, I went kind of like silent on it for many years, although I was always in the care council and I was always doing my outreach to the care council. I kept that very segregated from the rest of my world in my theater world and working with young people. And then an incident occurred and I realized that I couldn't be quiet with them anymore about it. And then, I just became kind of like a howler monkey and drove them crazy.
It's wonderful. That's great. And it is so different. As I said, when Jeff was, I mean, I lived 25 years with this man. I was with him for the years until he passed. We slept together. I never wore gloves when I had to change him. I never wore a mask. I never did anything. I knew I wasn't going to get it. And I didn't even have any real information. I just knew if it's sex, just stop having sex. That's all. I think we got more intimate. And even the last couple of years of his life, I think it was the most intimate we ever were because he was diagnosed with pneumonia, gravely ill, another bout of this, another bout of that. And he couldn't have lived that way. I think we became more intimate then. And yet, as soon as they would ask me, you want to get tested? They would test me, are you all right? To this day, everything's written in my book, Committed to Love. The whole journey is there. Wonderful book. Believe me, it's phenomenal. In the Hospice Heart book on my website, susanmintz.com. Get it on Amazon. They're wonderful books. But in general, people would still look at me and go, are you all right? No, are you all right? I mean, it just infuriates. And there's still stupidity out there, denial. I find it mind-boggling. Every show I have the same words I use. I find it unconscionable, and that the national media doesn't talk. They don't even care about Pride Day. They don't care about HIV testing. They don't even give you our local theaters, our local networks. They hardly mention anything. They'll show up at a Pride event when everybody's dressed up or they're gay or they're looking the queer. They aren't even talking about it, and it's still here, and it's real, and it's infecting your population. Your listeners are still contracting it. Why aren't you talking about it like we are?
Yeah, I've tried to use our theater company, to deal with those issues. We've done a couple shows. We did Tick, Tick, Boom, which was written by it's a story of the man who wrote Rent. And his best friend being diagnosed with HIV. And so we did that production. We did it as a fundraiser years ago. And I really want to do there's a piece about the quilt and that's been written that I really, really would like us to do. We're just kind of looking for sponsors to help us sponsor it. But if I can have the opportunity to do that, I'd like to, I want to keep it out. I want to keep it in people's minds out in the open, and people can talk about it and understand that it's still there. And while it's not the death sentence it was when I started in this, it still is impactful and it still is important to talk about. And we still have a lot of work to do. And it's
interesting is before I come on the show, or when I do first come on, before you come on or the guest comes on, I say, what is Positively Positive about? Has to be HIV/AIDS related in some way. And but the other component, community. Every one of the people, whether they are diagnosed, whether they're organizational, whether they're just caregivers, volunteers, community activism. And with Palm Beach County, so visible and so active with incredible organizations and resources. I mean, we have incredible resources here. But why aren't, like a show like this, why is this so difficult to get a show where it's exclusively this on a major streaming network, or me interviewing, I go on channel 10 or channel 12 or double 5 and have a once a month. Susan Mintz from Boca is going to interview someone impacted by HIV in the community. What would kill them, literally, to give me a show like this on one of our local TV stations where we can, they would get hundreds and thousands of listeners more because they're not doing anything. And when you're not doing anything, all somebody's got to do is something. My book would be great for a stage play. Keep it in mind.
I'm all for trying to do new works. I'd be happy to do it.
You check that out for real. And I'll tell you, the other thing is, if you have any connections with Tyler Perry.
I wish I did.
I want a brand, but I won't give it away. I want a brand name on it for a series. It has to be someone who can take it. You don't embellish it. Don't play with it. My guests are real. I'm real. HIV is real. And this show is reality. And that's what's so great. So does your theater company have a name?
Yeah, it's called Maplewood Playhouse.
Maplewood
Playhouse. That's our website. You just Google Maplewood Playhouse. We have a very thriving children's youth group. Young Arts Conservatory. I almost lost it there. Young Arts Conservatory. That's one of the our main focus. We do a lot with youth, all kinds of youth. It's great. We love working with all kinds of kids. We have adult programming. We've done, like I said, we've done some shows in the past that were HIV and AIDS related, and I still want to do the AIDS quilt one, maybe this year or next year.
And Committed to Love, if we get a big sponsor.
Absolutely.
If we get a big sponsor for Committed to Love, we might also be able to not only help legal aid, but the Maplewood Playhouse. Where is that located?
We are nomads, but we actually have rented Compass before and done shows. And we also work out of Palm Beach State College's theater, the Duncan down in Lake Worth. And we rehearse in Wellington. So we're kind of nomads. We don't have enough money to have our own space, but we're centrally located in Palm Beach County.
Let's just say once the words leave our mouths, they go wherever they're going to go. And I know my Lord, I know him. He's listening to everything this little widow's screaming about. You have children. You mentioned you had a daughter.
I have two daughters. Yes, they are both adults. They have intellectual disabilities, so they live at home with us.
Were they? Who's the us? Are you?
Oh, my husband and I. I'm sorry.
My
husband, who is also quite committed to he and I lost, it was actually one of my husband's very, very dear friends, lost him to AIDS back in the mid 90s as well. So it really has touched us and our family.
Your husband, does he work now or he doesn't work?
He's retired. He's a retired accountant.
That's good.
I met him on stage. He was a theater person too.
Oh, how too good to be true. So you have a husband who's an accountant, but he's retired. That's probably not in your bio, or maybe it is. You have two adult. You send me that bio, I will haunt you. You have two adult children. Where do they live?
They live with me because they have intellectual disabilities, so they aren't capable, of living on their own. So they live with us.
Did you adopt them or give birth to them?
Nope, I gave birth to them. Cass is 31. She'll be 31 this year, and Lexi will be 23 this year.
So you do all of this, and you deal with HIV in our community, getting people to legal aid through every channel they can. And you have two daughters. And what are their challenges? You said, what did you call it?
I call their intellectual disabilities. Another word would be developmental disabilities. So they're just, they're adults, but they pretty much are more like, 10-year-olds.
Yeah. My husband he was a psychologist, Dr. Jeffrey Amons. He was a psychologist and he was marriage and family. I got him through his master's and his doctorate. Thank you, Jeffrey. leaving me such an incredible legacy. But it's 30. I'm still here, darling, doing what I'm supposed to do. Thank you. But
We are
anyway,
all here doing what we're supposed to do. I really
we are, and we're all connected. People think, oh, no, honey, we're all connected. All right, everybody here is connected to everybody in this world. The other thing is, though, that he was marriage and family, and drug and alcohol therapy. And when we lived in Houston, we hooked up with who was then not the mayor, but he was a billionaire oil man. And he liked Jeffrey. Well, he was not gay. He didn't like him that way, but he'd heard about him because his first job was called Hope Center for Youth. It was in Montrose on Colquitt. And he was given the position out of Gainesville with his doctor to be the director of the facility. So it was a marvelous opportunity. So this man heard about him and called him over to this multi-gazillion-dollar home in River Oaks. And Jeffrey tutored him. His son, his only child, had disabilities, learning and all that. Plus, he was also acting out. But let's say at a very early age, I was associating with a lot of high-profile people. The man ends up becoming the mayor. But as far as I know, I'm very involved still with people who have any kind of challenges. I don't do well with the world when you have money, time. You can do anything you want, but you tend to do these stupid, ridiculous things. So that pisses me off when there's so many people who are challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my heart is. My heart is for the people who don't have. I have no patience for people out there. I only have the patience for people that I know need support. Mm-hmm. And all our guests like yourself. I mean, you're not out there touting yourself. You're with an organization that's bringing life to situations.
Mm-hmm.
And legal aid's been around how long? Because by the time I write it, it'll be a few more years because I'm not going to be definitive. 30 years?
We're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Legal aid, that was before HIV then.
Oh, yes. We've been around a long time.
Oh, so legal aid in Palm Beach County has been around. So is the HIV program just a different under the umbrella?
Yep. It was just a program that, my boss, like I said, felt was very important, an issue he felt was important for us to get involved with. And so it became a priority and a program in our office as early as the mid to late 80s.
Just keep talking because we're losing you, but we'll all come back shortly. That's what happens once in a while. We'll all be back in a moment. Yeah, we all come back.
So yeah, so
the other thing we are here. Well, yeah, what were you going to say? And then I want to ask you a question.
No, it's just always been a priority for my boss. So he made sure we have always had funding to deal with those issues for that community.
That's wonderful. And while I have you, and it's June, I want us to mention all these so we get everything in. Where did I put my glasses? I can't see. Here, let me put these on. There's several things in June that we find necessary to know about. It is the Long-Term Survivor Month. So Long-Term Survivor Month, very important. Show up somewhere to do some event. Pride Month. Show up somewhere, get into your community. Does Legal Aid have any special things they're doing?
We usually do a social media campaign during Pride Month to just talk about our programs and how we help the community as well. And we participate in Pride events in Palm Beach County as well.
Oh, you participate? Of course you would. You're all over so people will know. Mm-hmm. And we have your information is Ken Enright, KenRight at legalaidpbc.org. And here, get a few more here. It's, what did we say? Oh, it's National Caribbean HIV. Yep. It's Caribbean HIV Awareness Day or Month. And National HIV Testing Day is June 27th.
Yes.
I just always want to get our stuff in that's real business before we also chat. So I'm so I think I got everything in. Did we?
I think so. I think that was everything we talked about.
I love that. Oh my, did you feel, have you ever been on a show or interviewed like this before?
No, it's fun.
Isn't it? That's what everybody says. It wouldn't matter who they are.
It's
Everybody
very,
just says it was so good. We had so much fun. It was just,
yeah.
and the time goes by so quickly. But again, where do you see yourself? I'm listening also for the music when it gets on, but I don't want him to play some rap music or something really intense, but it's this elevator stuff. He hits me with it.
I know.
So anyway, if you, in their future, let's say you're 57, in the 50ish by the time you are 58, in the late 50s, where do you see yourself? You have two children who are a little bit developmentally challenged, and a husband who's retired, who's probably very helpful being retired, and he's probably home a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that helps a lot. But where personally do you see yourself in the future, besides acting on stage on Broadway? Ha ha ha.
Not me. I do have a couple of my kids that have gone on to do Broadway, but not me. Not my kids, my theater kids I've worked with over the years. I don't see myself ever stopping being an advocate. I think I will always be an advocate until I can take my last breath. I will always be an advocate in the LGBTQ community as well as the HIV/AIDS community. I've been doing it for 40 years, over half my life, and I will continue to do it for the rest of my life. I'll probably work another 10 years, and then I have property in Greece because my father's Greek. So I'd like to be able to spend at some point in my life half the year there and half the year here. And that would be awesome. And
not only is she in administration now, but she has property in Greece. This woman is challenging me not to jump out of my seat.
It's really my dad's property. I
don't care. You're dropping this stuff on me. I just know Rob Scott pops by today and he says, "Oh, she's wonderful." Oh, and Ricardo said, "Oh, she's amazing." And then and then all of a sudden she's in administration with legal aid. Nobody tells you that. I have no bio to go by. The poor woman's got to send me a bio on herself. I got pages of notes. Keep looking down. Somebody said, "You got to stop looking down." I said, "Well, if I had a bio, maybe I'd have something to go by." And then she drops a little thing like, "Well, I have property in Greece, and down the road, maybe I'll spend 6 months here and 6 months in Greece." I'm thinking to myself, I'm telling you, I don't know with you what glasses to put on more. Whether it's, I think
I like those glasses. Those are ones I would have.
These are wonderful, aren't they? So you do see yourself always as an advocate.
Oh, I've been my whole life. I will continue to be for the rest of my life. For whatever, I also do work with the family law section, and I'm a strong advocate for the underserved communities in that organization as well. So I think it's just ingrained in you.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think my mother instilled that in me, and it just has always been a really big part of me.
Yeah. And you have to be born to want to help. There's people born to take, there's people born to give.
Yep.
Yeah. And I prefer being with the givers. So
I definitely was raised by a giver, and I am a giver.
Yeah.
So
a couple of our guests previously were raised by their grandmothers, and that sense of community was instilled in them at a very young age. But I think like HIV or anything, whether it be breast cancer or colon cancer or rape.
Yeah.
There it is. Wow.
There's our music.
He upped it a little. Thank you. But anyway, imagine on national TV, me just being like this on my own show, on national TV, just talking to the producer. Could you just bring the music up a little more? That people would watch for the fun of it all too, because it's a serious show. We covered a lot of information.
And that's only the tip of the iceberg. I have so many stories.
Yeah, and I want you to tell people about this also and get more people to want to interview, whether it's personal, other people organization. I'm asking all our guests to please share this. Get tested, Campbell Health Solutions. You can email me or go to my website, SusanMintz.com or smintz7179 at AOL. I'm easy to find, and we will definitely get you on as a guest.
I also, if I could just one thing I want to shout out to all the other people who've worked in the organizations on the front lines with me for 30, 40 years, and do it today, every day. Take care of yourselves, self-care. There's a lot that goes with what we do. I ended up in therapy because with, secondary traumatic stress disorder from what I did, especially from the days when we did it, the early days. So take care of yourselves, everybody. You take care of everybody else. And I'm talking to myself as much as anything else. Take care of yourself too, and make sure you're getting what you need to keep helping everybody else.
Get tested, take care of yourself, get sleep, take your supplements, and get on early medication. But the main thing is it's a choice. You still have many choices in your life, and making the right choice could save your life, and it did me. So thank you so much, Kim Enright from the Legal Aid of Palm Beach County. You can reach her that way. And Legal Aid is there to help you in Palm Beach County. And even their resources would probably extend out beyond. They have contacts all over the country, probably. That can help
I
you.
actually do. I do help transgender folks outside of Palm Beach County.
Sure.
And I got an email from somebody in New York today. So,
and I also want to just say one more time, this show is positively positive. And it's all about HIV and AIDS, and we want your story. And I'm Susan Mintz. You can find me at susanmintz.com. My books are amazing. They're on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I like Amazon better, but that's just me. Barnes & Noble takes too long. But the main thing is our guests are amazing. So Kim Enright, you have been a wonderful, wonderful guest. And you're everything that Rob said and Richard said. And now next time I see you at an event.
Well, yes.
If you'll let me give you a really big hug, because
absolutely, I'm a hugger.
It's just amazing how many people I've heard their name. I've been here like you for years, 40 years, 30 years, whatever. And then all of a sudden I see them and I go, oh my goodness, that's who you are. And this show is getting so much exposure to people. And it's a very relaxed atmosphere, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Very, very. Very.
Isn't it amazing how we can get so much information out in a relaxed atmosphere without being tense or being drilled, without commercials? Though we want a sponsor, we want sponsors. This show needs a big sponsor, a drug company. Gilead, is that their name? Gilead. Yeah. Could you sponsor this show, or some Merck or Johnson & Johnson? We really would love a sponsor to take this show where it needs to go. Please. Thank you. And Tyler Perry, I know you're listening. It's been such a joy. We may get cut off at any moment. So I'm just going to say thank you. I like your baby grand in the back.
Oh.
Why don't we do tomorrow?